And he is sacked! And guess who? Myles Garrett!
Before, he was ripping offensive linemen apart like a velociraptor shredding through prey or breaking the NFL sack record. Myles Garrett was just a quiet kid from Arlington, Texas, with his nose buried in dinosaur books. No, really, dinosaurs. And in a surprising way, that love of prehistoric predators helped shape the path of the most terrifying pass rusher in the NFL today.
I could compare myself to one, probably Deinonychus, because it's big, strong, fast. It would attack from all sides. It was just a hell of a creature.
This is the story of Myles Garrett and how he became an NFL superstar. Myles Garrett was born on December 29, 1995 in Arlington, Texas, a place that isn't exactly small. It's a mid-sized city wedged between Dallas and Fort Worth, more suburb than small town. But don't let that fool you into thinking Myles had it easy or had everything handed to him. His father, Lawrence, and mother, Audrey, built their family on education. They believed that sports and school went hand in hand. These were not people who just let their kids coast on athletic ability. You had to be more than an athlete in the Garrett household. You had to be someone. His older brother, Sean Williams, went on to play in the NBA.
Oh, Sean Williams! My sister's playing now in track. I already won a ring for herself. I need to hold up the legacy.
Athletic excellence was just the baseline. The expectation was that you would match it with your mind. Myles took that seriously, maybe more seriously than anyone expected, because while most kids his age were collecting trading cards or playing video games, Myles Garrett was reading about the Cretaceous period. He was obsessed with paleontology. Dinosaurs weren't just a phase, they were a passion, one that would actually follow him all the way into one of the most consequential decisions of his life. Now here's the thing about Myles Garrett as a kid. He was always going to be a freak. You don't grow to 6 feet 4 inches, 270 pounds with a 34-inch wingspan and a first step that defies physics by accident. But even as a young athlete, he wasn't just a one-trick pony. He played basketball. He ran track. He was the kind of physical specimen that coaches drooled over the second he walked into a gym. But football is where the world started paying attention. Because when a kid that size starts moving that fast and getting to quarterbacks with that kind of ease, people tend to notice. The challenge for Myles wasn't exposure. The challenge was channeling all of that ability into something sustainable. Because raw talent without discipline is just a highlight reel waiting to get hurt. And the Garrett family made sure that never happened. Myles attended Martin High School in Arlington, and right away it was clear this was no ordinary recruit. By the time he was a junior, he had grown into a 6'4" physical specimen and was already drawing comparisons to players who are currently in the NFL. That's no exaggeration either. That's just what evaluators were saying out loud. His senior year numbers were absurd, racking up over 20 sacks. He was unblockable on the edge. He was the kind of defensive end that made offensive coordinators physically uncomfortable. And unlike some of today's stars, the recruiting world had absolutely no problem finding him. By the time it was over, Myles Garrett was a 5-star recruit, the consensus #1 overall prospect in the entire country, and one of the highest-rated defensive players in the history of recruiting rankings. Every program in America wanted him. Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, you name it. They called. Where does a kid like this go when everyone wants him? Most 5-star recruits pick their school based on championship pedigree, NFL draft history, or which coaching staff sold them the best vision of their future. Myles Garrett, however, picked his school partly because of dinosaurs. When Garrett was evaluating colleges, he wasn't just asking about the defensive scheme or the pass rush package. He was asking about academic programs, specifically geology and paleontology. With Garrett seriously considering Ohio State due to their excellent paleontology program, Texas A&M head coach Kevin Sumlin knew he had to take the opportunity seriously. He didn't laugh it off or treat it as some quirky interest. He leaned in. They showed Garrett that College Station had the academic infrastructure to feed his intellectual curiosity alongside his football development, which was important for a kid who genuinely cared about life beyond the gridiron. As Garrett himself has said, the game of football won't last forever, but knowledge does.
I'm gonna make my commitment right now. I'm gonna make it to Texas A&M.
On National Signing Day, the Arlington, Texas native signed with Texas A&M, the school he verbally committed to back in October. The Texas A&M coaches knew Myles was talented, but maybe didn't realize how highly he'd be rated in the final national recruiting rankings. Rivals now has Myles at number 2 overall in the country, and 24/7 Sports has him as the best player in the entire class.
Texas A&M wasn't just recruiting his body, they were recruiting his mind, and that made all the difference. Garrett arrived at Texas A&M in 2014 and almost immediately became the most terrifying player in the SEC.
He is going to be sacked. That is the 3rd sack of the night.
As a true freshman, he recorded 11.5 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. Not bad for a kid who was still a teenager. But it was his sophomore season where things got truly ridiculous. He finished with 12 sacks and was named a consensus All-American, drawing comparisons to players nobody had compared a college pass rusher to in years.
Unbelievable pick for them is defensive end Myles Garrett.
This is a guy that can do it all. He's going to be an absolute force here in College Station for some time.
Scouts started showing up not to evaluate him, but just to watch, just to say they were there. He was that good. But even with all the hype swirling around him, Garrett stayed Garrett. After practice, while teammates were on their phones or heading to team dinners, Myles was in the library, reading, studying, learning. Not just football, everything. His teammates called him the professor. His coaches called him the most mature player they'd ever coached. And the dinosaur books never went away either. April 27, 2017. The NFL Draft. Cleveland Browns on the clock. There was no debate, no drama, no alternative universe where this ended differently.
With the first pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Myles Garrett.
All right.
Defensive end, Texas A&M.
With the first overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Myles Garrett, defensive end, Texas A&M. The Dino Nerd from Arlington was going to the NFL. The only question now was how long it would take for the rest of the league to realize exactly what they were dealing with. Now let's be honest about the Cleveland Browns. The Browns in 2017 were historically bad. They finished 0-16 that season.
Truth is, no one is surprised in Cleveland. The Browns dropped the ball all year long. Unfortunately, a team, a coach, an organization, not good enough to earn one win. The only win in the last 2 years came on Christmas Eve. Now here we are on New Year's Eve, talking about a team that will go down as one of the worst in NFL history. The 2017 Browns joined the 2008 Lions as the only teams to go 0-16.
Garrett wasn't just being asked to be good. He was being asked to be a franchise cornerstone for a team that hadn't made the playoffs since 2002. Sure, no pressure. His rookie year started the way a lot of rookie years do for elite pass rushers, with injuries that limited him to just 11 games. He still managed 7 sacks in those games, which told you everything you needed to know about his ceiling.
And here comes Myles Garrett.
By 2018, Garrett was healthy and he was angry.
Mariota taken down, and it's Myles Garrett.
The duress that Myles Garrett is consistently and constantly putting on opposing quarterbacks, the challenges that he puts to the whole offense, it's easy to see.
Bell in the backfield. Here's Simeon back to pass, looking. He's going to get hit and sacked. They got him. All the way back inside the 15-yard line.
He recorded 13.5 sacks in his second season, good enough for 3rd in the entire league, and his first Pro Bowl selection. Opposing offensive coordinators were now dedicating entire game plans to slowing him down, and he was still getting home. But the Browns lost. And they lost. And they lost some more. And through it all, Myles Garrett just kept working. Then, 2019 happened, and not entirely in the way anyone expected. Garrett was on his way to a Defensive Player of the Year type season, tearing through offensive lines like they were paper mache. That's when one moment threatened to define him in all the wrong ways. In a late-season game against the Pittsburgh Steelers after a late hit, Garrett ripped the helmet off Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph and struck him over the head with it.
I mean, this is multiple game suspension right here. Usually when the helmet comes off, everybody's like, whoa, right? Okay, we need to chill. But, I mean, he just literally took his helmet and hit him upside the head. To me, that's like assault.
But to make it sound like he went and assaulted me, he went and hunted this guy down and tried to hit him in the head with a helmet. That's not what happened. Mason Rudolph brought the helmets into it. Mason Rudolph pursued him when he was being restrained by Mason Rudolph's teammates, and now Mason Rudolph is the victim.
He was suspended for the remainder of the season, and the entire sports world had an opinion. It was the most scrutinized moment of his career. And here's where the real Myles Garrett showed up. Not the football player, but the person. He didn't deflect. He didn't hide. He sat with it. He read. He reflected. And he decided to come back in 2020. More focused, more locked in than ever before. He returned to the field and was immediately dominant.
Burrow's got to be smart here with the football.
And he's not. Gets it knocked out. Browns have it.
High snap to Haskins with backside pressure coming. He's in trouble, and Haskins is pulled down from behind by Myles.
Recording 12 sacks and making his first Pro Bowl. But more importantly, he showed the maturity and accountability that the suspension had called into question. Then 2021 and 2022 happened. That's when Myles Garrett stopped being a great player trying to prove something and started being something else entirely. A monster in the truest football sense of the word. In 2021, he recorded 16 sacks. He was named first-team All-Pro. He was doing things that had scouts and analysts pulling up old film of Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor just to find comparisons worthy of what they were watching. And Cleveland was finally becoming relevant. The Browns were no longer the team that went 0-16. They were a playoff contender, and Myles Garrett was the engine. In 2022, he produced yet another dominant season, 16 sacks again, and was once again named a Pro Bowler. Then, in 2023, despite playing through injuries, he put together a 14-sack and 4 forced fumble performance that earned him the NFL Defensive Player of the Year award, the most prestigious individual defensive honor in the sport. Fast forward to 2025, the record-setting year. Garrett came out the gate on fire, recording 15 sacks in the first 10 games, including a 5-sack performance in Week 8 against the New England Patriots, followed by a 4-sack outing 2 weeks later against division rival, the Baltimore Ravens. With 7 games left, it didn't take long for Garrett and the rest of the NFL world to start eyeing Michael Strahan's record of 22.5 sacks. With the Browns' fate already decided, Garrett entered Week 18 with one goal in mind: the sack record. Entering the fourth quarter against the Cincinnati Bengals, Garrett needed just 1 sack to break the record, and I think we all know what happened next.
Burrow, he's under pressure, he's sacked! And there it is, a record that has stood nearly a quarter of a century has a new leader as 30-year-old Myles Garrett records his NFL record 23rd sack of the year.
Garrett is what we like to call a stat sheet stuffer. He currently has 125.5 sacks and 23 forced fumbles, to go along with 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 5 first-team All-Pro selections, and 7 Pro Bowls. And he still has plenty left in the tank. But before Myles Garrett was the most feared pass rusher on the planet, before the Pro Bowls, the All-Pro nods, the Defensive Player of the Year trophy, he was a kid who thought the most terrifying creatures to ever walk the earth had 4 legs, a 40-foot frame, and went extinct long before the forward pass was ever invented. The self-proclaimed Dino Nerd stays connected to his childhood interest, serving as a community science ambassador for the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. The kid from Arlington didn't just make it to the NFL, he became the most terrifying thing in it. And honestly, the dinosaurs would be proud. If you enjoyed this video and are looking for more of the best NFL content, be sure to like and subscribe.